Welcome to my presentation, The History of Alaskan Native Education. Education is the most important part of society. Without the education of the youth, there is no future for any Aboriginal tribe. An easy way to undermine and sabotage a native culture is to take over the education of the next generation and deny teaching of traditional languages and knowledge. Education before contact, traditional knowledge systems, here represented by a story knife. Before any Western discoverers had set foot on the land on the far north of the American continent, indigenous people had lived and survived in this harsh land and passed on their knowledge of survival from generation to generation. It was mainly the closest family, but also knowledgeable elders who taught the new generation what they have been taught by their parents and ancestors. After contact, missionaries who were on the hunt for new souls to save were building schools to teach the savages a Christian way of life. Many did not understand that the Aboriginal people had a well-functioning education system in place. Some missionaries and priests had a genuine interest in learning the native knowledge and language. The most important of them, Bishop Innocent. But unfortunately, most of the early educators and missionaries followed the lead of Sheldon Jackson, which thought prohibiting the speaking of native language was the way to go. Since many villages did not have own schools, many native children were sent to boarding schools both in Alaska and the lower 48. By 1968, the Bureau of Indian Affairs had sent over 1,000 Alaskan Native children to boarding schools in Oregon and Oklahoma. Between 1987 and 1965, Mount Edgecombe was the only tax-supported high school for Native children in Alaska. Interestingly, several public secondary schools were built in the area dominated by non-natives. Many Native parents did not understand why they could not educate their children in their home village, and went therefore to court for a secondary school system in remote areas. The Molly Hutch case was called Molly Hutch case because of a 16-year-old who was the first name on the list of 27 plaintiffs which filed a lawsuit against the Alaskan state-operated school system. After settling the lawsuit in December 1975, they started to map out the future of high schools in remote areas. Throughout 1976, further agreements were reached, and in October 1976, the Molly Hutch case was settled. Between 1975 and 1983, 101 native villages got their own secondary school. By 2003, only 5.5% of the teachers in native villages were Alaska Native. Most teachers are non-natives, and many of them do not speak the local language. The native language are taught as second languages to English, when the first language should be their mother tongue. Alaskan Native parents should be able to influence the curriculum and put hunting, fishing, building boats and other important activities on the class schedule. For the future, it's also very important that Alaskan Natives learn and educate themselves within environmental questions, because pollution threatens the substance way of living. More young natives need also to go into politics and make themselves heard. So many people who went through this horrible education system made themselves heard and fight for their rights as indigenous people. At the end, I would like to recommend 2 books which I enjoyed reading and learned a lot about. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation.